Okay, friends, cat's out of the bag on this one. There may be a few reasons why Northern Kentucky and Kentucky as a whole may not be for everybody. Stick around for the end. The last one might make some of you a little bit queasy. The first thing I would call out, and one of the most common complaints about this region as a whole, is the humidity. From a temperature standpoint, we usually are not in the 90s. Upper 80s can be common, but 90s, that's some real heat for our area. The issue arises when we creep up into the upper 80s and low 90s and the humidity climbs at the same time. It can be really hot. Days like that, really, when you get out of the shower in the morning, I wouldn't even worry about using a towel and drying off, because as soon as you get back outside, everything's gonna be really clammy and sticky and sweaty, especially if you're doing physical labor outside or anything physical outside. You're really gonna feel that heat. The nice thing about weather patterns in this area is you do get really even seasons. You get a good quarter of the year for spring, a good quarter of the year for fall. The leaves change colors progressively over time, so you get to enjoy those beautiful fall colors. The winter is about a quarter of the year, and we really only see skips of snow on and off for a couple of days at a time. But the real challenge comes back to those hot summer days when humidity climbs. The second thing I would say you should consider before moving to Northern Kentucky is the complaint that Northern Kentucky is not a very walkable region. While some HOA communities and local parks do have great trails, if you're wanting to walk to nearby restaurants or bars or entertainment, that can be a little bit more challenging. By and large, you are going to want a vehicle to get around. One really nice part about this region is we are not very far from the Loveland Bike Trail. The Loveland Bike Trail is 70 miles long and connects to over 100 miles of additional path. It can be challenging to find longer trails and paths if you're wanting to go for a jog or a bike ride, where you're not going to have to ride or jog along a busy street or cross busy roads or get stuck at stoplights. One really nice thing you can do to get around this is jump up to the Loveland Bike Trail on the other side of the river. So for those long distance athletes training for an endurance race, there still are good places that are not very far that you can go for those longer distances. Along the same lines of not being very walkable, public transportation can be a little bit of a challenge. The Transit Authority of Northern Kentucky, TANK, does have some really good public transportation routes that connect the three Northern Kentucky counties, Boone, Kenton, and Campbell, and help you get downtown. TANK buses are all over the place, though if you know you're going to be wanting to use this public transportation, I would definitely plan to live close enough that you can easily get to those points. Though I am curious, for those that do want to be able to walk to restaurants and entertainment, is this a deal breaker for you? Comment below. The third thing some of you may want to be aware of is, generally speaking, the political climate swings conservatively in Kentucky. That does influence some of the recreational activities that some people tend to do out here, like guns. People really like their guns. Target shooting, trap shooting, hunting, fishing, all of these things are very popular and very common in this area. In Kentucky, tannerite is legal. Tannerite is considered a binary explosive. Its components are not explosive in and of itself, so it is legal, and you will find a hillbilly somewhere sooner than later that likes blowing stuff up. Hunting can also be a very popular sport out here. There's a lot of white-tailed deer, coyote, turkey. Along with hunting comes fishing. Fishing's very popular in our area. A lot of the major parks have big ponds that they keep stocked. HOA communities stock their private ponds. So it's not very uncommon to see people 7 days a week out at these ponds with a rod in the water. In addition to guns, fishing, and explosives are fireworks. Fireworks in Kentucky are very legal. There are not very many regulations against them. Aerial fireworks are permitted. So particularly on the big holidays, 4th of July, New Year's, Memorial Day, it's very common to go on any hilltop and over just about any neighborhood, have a great fireworks show. So if you don't like a conservative climate, you're not a big gun enthusiast, you don't like the fishing, the hunting, the explosions, the fireworks, this region may not necessarily be your quiet abode. The fourth thing that you should know before considering moving to Northern Kentucky is that wages are a little bit lower relative to the rest of the country. Northern Kentucky does have a lower cost of living overall that complements lower wages, so this may not be a problem, but if you would take a significant pay cut to come out to this area, that may be something you want to factor into making your plans. One of the major contributing factors to this is the cost of housing. The average home, according to Realtor.com, right now in Kentucky is around $225,000. The Northern Kentucky region rises above that just a little bit, Kenton County coming in at around $300,000, Campbell County around $330,000, and Boone County around 370,000. So you can buy a decent amount of property for a very reasonable price, even with lower incomes. In fact, we have a lot of friends reach out and say, hey, I can buy that for 500,000. I can buy that for 300,000. Where I am, that'd be $1 million home. So by and large, money does go quite a bit further, even though income levels can be a little bit lower. The fifth thing you really ought to be aware of before considering moving to Northern Kentucky is that there is limited space for the tech and media crowd. If you're looking to start a business in media or tech or something along those lines, there is definitely a need for that in our area, and there is definitely demand. But one of the challenges that many people face is it can be difficult to find clients that will be able to pay you enough to make it worth your time, talent, investment, and risk. But the supporting revenues that create the demand are not as high as some of the other markets, so there's just less budget to go around to spend on those types of things. For those that are good and competent, it's very easy to stay busy. There's plenty of demand. So if you're looking for a new space to go start a new media company or tech company, this may not be the area for you. The sixth thing for the party animals, outside of downtown Cincinnati, there's not a ton of nightlife. There are plenty of breweries, bars, restaurants, things that you can do, but it does slow down and quiet down a little bit at night, by and large, in the Northern Kentucky region. So if the nightlife and party scene is a center point of your life, we are definitely a long way from Vegas, and this may not be the place for you. The last thing I would say would actually probably excite Timon and Pumbaa. Northern Kentucky does have a decent amount of bugs. Some of these are really cool and magical. We get lots of fireflies in July, while other bugs may seem a little bit more like the plague. A couple years back, we did have a really exciting year of the cicada, which is when every 17 years, the cicada cycle kicks in and giant broods all come out of the ground all at once, and these cicadas are nasty. If you're outside when one of these broods have hatched, it can be really hard to talk on the phone or even talk to the person right next to you. They're so loud. For kids and those that don't mind the bugs, this can actually be kind of a fascinating thing to watch. I remember being outside a friend's house with my son, and there was a little tree that was full of cicadas. We walked over to it, gave it a big shake, and they just scattered everywhere. So while this might be really exciting for some, for others, this could be a nightmare of biblical proportions and make you think we're caught in one of the plagues. For this reason, pest control companies definitely thrive in our region. In the summertime, you'll see lots of people walking around in polos on a Segway or a scooter, going door to door, selling these packages. And honestly, it may be worth actually opening that door and having a serious conversation about a treatment plan to keep the bugs out of your house. I'm curious though, comment below, what would keep you from moving to Northern Kentucky? If you found this helpful and useful, hit subscribe, like, and turn on those notifications so we can continue to give you all the updates as we go.